Oh, I'm good with that either.
I'm here, I'm taking advantage of the council president's gavel, so we'll gavel in. Welcome, everyone, to the sixth special meeting of the school committee, July 1st, 2021. Excuse me. And this meeting is, for the first time, at least since I've been on the committee and many members, we're meeting in the council chamber. And I want to thank the Lynn Council for allowing us to use their chamber. But we're here to move forward and start. We will have a public hearing as well. But the meeting begins, and usually what we do, and we'll do it here tonight, is we begin with a salute to the flag of the United States of America. Ask everyone to stand and join me in Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And while we will be taking up the budget, we have two small issues to take up, and then we will go into the budget hearing and take testimony both. And before we get started, we will take a roll call of the members to ensure that all the members are here.
Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Capola?
Present.
Member Ford?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Nicholson?
Present.
Member Satterwhite?
Present.
Mayor McGee?
Present. So as I was saying, we'll begin with a couple of preliminary issues, and then we will go into the hearing for the budget, and then discussion and anticipate a vote on the budget tonight as well. Budget for FY 2022 budget, which has been posted and is scheduled for tonight's meeting. First on the agenda is the minutes, and I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Are we doing that, going into the regular meeting before the public?
We're going to do those, and then we're going to go into the public meeting. So what we're going to do is we're going to do these two should take us no longer than five minutes or so. We'll get that part of the meeting out of the way, and then we'll go into the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
just for posting-wise and not to get in trouble,
Yes?
it does say that following the public hearing, the regular meeting will be held.
Okay.
So one would expect that the stuff that we're discussing now will be discussed after the public hearing, just to put that out there.
Thank you, Mr. Satterwhite. Member Satterwhite. I think as it's been scheduled, then I will go right into the public meeting. We will take those matters up following the public meeting or the public hearing for the budget. So with that, the members are ready. We'll go right into the public meeting, the public hearing. As we've opened the meeting and saluted the flag, the public hearing, the public will have an opportunity to address the budget, which again has been posted and will be open for a hearing tonight. Everyone will have the opportunity to speak, whether they're in person or watching us on TV and able to call in. So there are two ways that people can input the budget tonight. And those that will be speaking either in person or on the phone have an opportunity to speak either in favor or opposition to the budget. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make their case either for the budget or against the budget. And again, the in-person in the Lynn Council Chambers, Lynn City Hall. I don't see anyone here. Is anyone here to testify on the budget? And as well, if you want to testify by telephone, you can call us at 781-586-6783. So again, seeing that there appears to be no one here to testify either for or against the budget, we will now go into the open public meeting. No one is here in person, but we will go to open the public meeting. And again, those wishing to speak in favor, we'll begin with those people that are willing to speak in favor. After that, we'll move on to those who speak in opposition. Right now, again, if anyone here is in the chamber that would like to speak in support in favor of the budget, please come forward. And again, as I said earlier, seeing that no one is here to testify in favor, what I would like to do now is move to those who wish to call in. Again, each person will have 3 minutes to speak, and Secretary Jules would time those speakers to allow them to get their time in. And if there's anyone wishing to speak in favor of the budget, that phone number is 781-586-6783. Please call in if you are interested in speaking in favor of the budget. So is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the budget? Again, I'll ask for those who are watching us, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the budget, the FY 2022 budget? Please call in at 781-586-6783. Again, I will ask if anyone is wishing to speak in favor of the FY 2022 budget. The phone number is 781-586-6783. Please call in if you would like to testify in favor of the FY 2022 budget. At this point, hearing no one in the audience, and no one's here to testify, as well as there have been no phone-in testimony that's come, I will now close that portion of the meeting, to the public meeting, and open it up to those either here in person or those wishing to speak by phone in opposition to the budget. Again, seeing there is no one here, is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to the budget? Again, seeing no one here that would like to speak in opposition to the budget, I will again move to the call-in opportunity, and each person, again, will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Secretary Jules would kindly time those speakers that call in, and I'm going to give the number again. The number is 586-6783, 781-586-6783. Anyone who is wishing to speak in opposition, who wants to call in and speak in opposition to the FY 2022 school budget, please call in at this time. Again, I will ask anyone that's watching on this meeting tonight who would wish to speak in opposition to the FY 2022 school budget, please call in at 781-586-6783. Again, I will ask if anyone who is watching the meeting tonight, of our school committee meeting related to the FY 2022 school budget, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the budget, you can call in at 781-586-6783. And again, at this point, hearing no one either in the audience or no one who is by phone reached out to speak either in favor or opposition, and at this point in opposition, hearing none, we will now close the public hearing on the Lynn Public School FY 2022 budget. And with that, we're now ready to go into the regular meeting. And the first agenda item on the regular meeting is the minutes. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for the 12th regular meeting with executive session minutes on June 24th, 2021.
Been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
See a number of seconds, requires a roll call.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Nicholson?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. Next on the agenda is appointments and elections. Dr. Tutwiler, would you like to speak to those?
Glad to.
Thank you.
As I shared with this body in writing earlier, actually last week, a notable strength of leadership in the Lynn Public Schools is the stability of leadership at the building level. It's not often that we have 5 openings in one spring season. Nonetheless, while this might be seen as a challenge, it is also an opportunity for a fresh perspective on our continuous improvement effort. I'm pleased to announce 3 of the appointments, each of which is derived from a rigorous input-driven process. The appointments are as follows. John Braga at Lynn English High School as principal, Fred Gallo as principal of Lynn Tech, and Jessica Ikomu as principal of Hood Elementary School. Each of these leaders brings experience, deep instructional knowledge, and a proven track record of collaborating to achieve a shared outcome. It bears mentioning also that there are two of those appointees are bilingual, 2 are leaders of color, and 2 are residents of the city of Lynn. Join me in congratulating our new building leaders. Mayor, I should just say none, 0 are here. 2, one is in Florida, one's in Puerto Rico, and 1 had a commitment that they could not break to join us this evening.
Well, I think, again, we welcome them all and congratulate them and look forward to their leadership at Hood English and Lynn Vogue Technical School. Congratulations to them, and it's great to have them on board. Next on the agenda is a vote to approve the FY 2022 budget and obviously discussion related to that budget. Is there any discussion? Any members would like to speak to the budget? Member Ford?
I would like to make a motion in lieu of no other discussion to approve the FY22 budget.
The motion on the table to approve the budget.
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
I have before, actually,
Member Castellanos?
I had a couple out just before. I don't know if I saw a member.
Member Castellanos, and then Member
So
Capola.
I just want to address, just before we move forward with the budget, around athletics. I did see the adjustments on the line items. And I'm sorry to bring this up. I know we've been talking about how we wanted to make right for our coaches, and athletics is a key asset to this city. Our coaches are not only they're on the field, but they're off the field. And compensation, we haven't seen any adjusted rates for a while. That's something that really hits home with a lot of our coaches and the staffing around who they serve our students at a very, very generous basis. It was brought to my attention the need of weight room updates, equipment, and I know Member Capola did share with the uniform. We've seen the adjustments. We've seen what was added to for our uniforms, but there are some issues with our current equipment at all 3 high schools. Lynn Tech specifically has outdated. They haven't had a new weight room regimen in a while. Lynn English still has the same equipment since I was there and before my time. It was really, these students, when you come from me as an athlete, these weight rooms save lives. You see the uptick in violence around the city right now, and you see what's going around, when you're on the ground level, violence is real. Poverty is real. These weight rooms are super vital when it comes to prevention. And also, we're building leaders. That's where leadership, for me, was discovered as an athlete, especially playing for Lynn English as a football player. It saved my life, and the coaches saved my life. And I feel, I'm obligated to speak up on that. And I did see the adjustments, and I know there's a tension there. And respectfully, I want to bring this up because it's definitely a shared priority. When I have constituents reach out to me, their priority is my priority. So when I have to come and present on this budget, when we see other investments that we've all discussed together, it's very important that we reflect those priorities respectfully. And coaches, student athletes across this district are special to me personally. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the coaches. I've said on many occasions why I'm here. And how I got here was because my foundation of Savior was athletics. So it's something that we need to really prioritize. And there's updates capital-wise across the board. We understand, we need schools, there's other priorities there, but I think we need to invest more in our athletics. And it's very important that we start taking action instead of just throwing it in the air sometimes. I'm not saying that we're throwing it in the air, but it's been a long time since we had an opportunity like this. So I think we really need to pivot to take it seriously. Because we are losing coaches because folks are now not able to the cost of living is so high where we're not able to retain youth coaches, high school coaches. So it's definitely it's challenging to keep those leaders there, and we need those leaders because they are instrumental against the fight against the school to prison pipeline. And I'm there every day to see it in our Lynn juvenile courts and the court systems across this whole state. So it means very. It's daily, this issue, but athletics we need to do right. So I put that out there before we, push this through. So,
Dr. Tutwiler?
I just quickly want to acknowledge and agree with Member Castellanos' portrayal of the importance of coaches. As a former student athlete, I can tell you that those relationships, I'm still in touch with my high school coaches. And so the 2 meetings ago, the committee tasked us with doing an analysis to find out, to look at the other GBL schools, to determine, what the differences are in terms of compensation. That's something that we've begun to do but have not completed. But I guess I would just ask quickly, Mr. McHugh, is there flexibility within the budget for us to, once that assessment is done, even though the budget's passed, for us to make those adjustments?
Yes, I think that the original discussion we had 2 weeks ago, at the 2 meetings ago on the 17th, is we had that. So our goal is to come back in September, the first meeting with September, with a report outlining not just the GBL, but our neighboring towns too, just so, because we are competing against other surrounding towns for people as well. And then any recommendations as far as what needs to be adjusted at that time. And there will be flexibility within the budget to make those adjustments at that time. So that piece, I think that's the plan we are working on right now and plan to bring that back in September.
I want to thank you for that. That's actually really good news to see that, and I know Kevin works really hard on the budget, and to hear that, and to put it to wrap things up in a nutshell, our athletics and athletes in this city, they're our future. As an athlete, I think this is something that is very, very, very important to consider, and not to just, even when you come back with the report, I feel like that needs to be put into subcommittee as much as possible. I feel like what we got to really, time is, is an asset right now. I think it's important to make sure that our athletic subcommittee is kept in touch and letting us know what that looks like so we can make sure that we follow through. Because I think that's the key on this whole issue is the follow through. And I apologize, my allergies are really bad right now, so I'm really having a tough time with.
Thank you, Member Castellanos. And I know Member Capola, then Member Nicholson. I just want to make a point because I think it's, and then Member Gately. I want to make a point that I think it's relevant as it relates to at least high school sports. In the city budget, $2.5 million was allocated to both to re-turf, completely turf Fraser Field, re-turf Manning Field, as well as address the track. And we're also looking to marry that or work that through with potential grant matches and other so that those dollars can actually go and continue to make that a facility that is, the best facility in the Commonwealth, in my opinion, as we continue to invest in it. So that is part of our budget that I proposed and was accepted by the council last week. So it's a point well taken, and I think as we move forward with what has been a really challenging budget for us over the last several years, and now getting into the Student Opportunity Act, these are the kind of things that we can continue to address and talk about as we move forward. So I appreciate your discussion and the ongoing discussions we'll have. Yes, Mr. McHugh.
And just to add to that, the athletic director at LVTI has reached out to me now that we're going to be looking at that gym floor too, because now that it's no longer going to be a vaccination center, the floor took a real bad beating. So that AD had contacted me 2 weeks ago and raised that, so we're going to start looking at that and seeing if we can use appropriate those ESSER funds to take care of that and possibly resurface that as well. So we are looking at things kind of behind the scenes sometimes too, so we are going to look at that as well.
Thank you, Mr. McHugh, and I think that's a great point with that being utilized and impacted by what was an amazing operation for us in the city to have that up to 6,000 vaccinations a week going on at the Lynn Tech. We had all kinds of people in there making that work, so I think that's a really good point. It was impacted by that operation. It was so vital to our community, and hopefully there's an opportunity to take those dollars and also see a benefit out of improving and upgrading what needs to be taken care of. So thank you, Mr. McHugh. Member Capola, Member Nicholson, Member Gately, and then Member Satterwhite.
Okay, it's also on athletics. And just to add to Brian's, coaches are paid a certain amount of stipend. But then if that team goes on to be champions, they have more games that they're competing against people, and they don't have extra pay for that. That's all on their time. So we should also, at some point, check with other, maybe the Greater Boston League, whatever, are people compensated past just your regular season when you move on to the others, because we don't want to lose the coaches. We have lost some good coaches, and we don't want to see that happen for the kids.
I think, and just if you don't mind me, Member Capola, I think to follow up, and I don't want to single out Everett, but Everett, who has had an amazing program, particularly in the football program, was always was always either winning championships or heading towards a championship game. I think getting a chance to see, there really is a synergy here to kind of see what some of those communities did, and I think Everett is a good example because they have a continuous, not that our community has done really well as well, but I think it really is reflective of the new league that we're in, so I just want to make that point.
Thank you. But on the uniform line, and we have gone up, we've had some tough times in our budgets over the years. 2016, that line only had $15,000 on it. In 17, we doubled it to $30,000. In 18 to $50,000, but it's still $50,000, and now we're moving into FY22, and we're averaging 2,000 athletes between middle school and high school in all the sports that we encompass. And when you think of that, $50,000 with 2,000 students, it's $25 a kid. That is like absolutely nothing. And we're spending annually buying 1,000 pairs of socks. So if each kid is only worth $25, something's not right, that we don't have the right amount of money on that line. You know, I'd like to see it at least doubled, and for each athlete, at least to the point where we can reach that amount. I don't know if there's money on another line in the budget that we can, you know, increase that to $50,000 and put it to $100,000, but I really feel as though it should be at a higher amount.
Dr. Tutwiler, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, you know, and I'm actually going to lean on Mr. McHugh to just talk about the uniform replacement cycle. So it's not necessarily.
No, we did get that, but I'm
Okay.
going to tell you, we have heard, since that meeting, when I spoke at that meeting and said that a parent called me and it was embarrassing. She was embarrassed by the uniform her child was wearing. I have had so many calls about that, and I'm sure others have been out there and heard the same thing. John Ford talked about his grandson going to play against Danvers and having, nobody had the same shirts on. That's not right. It's not right. Not only that, but one had a green shirt on, a political shirt on, just to try to match and be matched with the team. There's no need of that in this community. We're either going to be proud for our kids or we're not going to be proud. I understand a lot of you don't live here. You know, you live in other communities, and I'm sure your kids aren't going off looking like this. And I don't want my kids to go off looking like this either. I really think
Mrs. Coppola,
this is the time. We have the money and we should do it.
Mr. Dr. Tutwiler?
I take offense at the suggestion that I care less about the kids. because
No,
I don't
I'm not
live
refer-
here.
I'm
Can I
not-
finish, please?
Yeah.
And I was actually going to agree with your point, but wanted to make sure that the comment was made about the input was made about the cycle of replacement. I absolutely want our kids to look the best. And I will tell you, when I go to games, I do feel pride in the way that our kids look with their uniforms. I'm saddened and disheartened to hear that there are scenarios where they're not. And so my next step was to ask Mr. McHugh if we had that flexibility to accommodate your request. I do not live in the community. Everybody knows that. But I think no one has ever questioned my commitment to my students, to my staff, to this city. So I take offense at the suggestion that, and in raising my children, that there's somehow students, I treat the students or see the students here as less.
And I'm only presenting to you as we go to other communities, this is what the parents are saying that they see when they play against another team. So that's the only thing that I'm referring to. I understand how because we all got it, we've got it twice already, explaining to us how we have every 5 years, a cycle of every 5 years purchasing uniforms and purchasing things, and some things are purchased annually. You know, so we all know that, but it's not sufficient. And so, you know, I just want to stress that it needs to be changed.
Dr. Tutwiler? Mr. McHugh?
If you're looking for a place to potentially take some risk, would be the unemployment line. Currently, this year, it's 1.2 million. We're pretty much spot on that, but that was due to the pandemic and furloughs and everything else we had happen this year. Next year, I'm proposing $500,000, which we average in most years 400 to 500 on a typical year. So I just put the 500 as a placeholder. So I would not recommend any more than 50,000 out of that line, because then we could be in a tough situation next spring. So if you wanted to make that as a motion to reduce that line by 50,000 and move that 50,000 to the uniform line.
I would like to make that motion. I'd like to make a motion to move from the unemployment line under the personnel department to be from 500,000 to 450,000, and move it to the athletic under uniforms.
If I'm clear on that, Mr. McHugh, that you said the number was higher than that, is that correct?
If you go to the, it's under personnel department, the the current budget we were in this past year is 1.2 million, and that was a huge number that I actually had to kind of calculate based on the pandemic and people that were unemployed, and we had furloughed people, so they're all collecting unemployment. And as you know, it's a city line expense, but the city bills us back every month for our unemployment charges over the school department. But I went back and I looked at, when I put this budget together, I looked at what do we typically pay in a typical year? It's around 400 to 500. It all depends on what happens. Some people come, they quit, and they leave and they collect. So there's no science to it. It's just based on averages. So I gave 500,000 based on the pandemic, and hopefully it will be gone, and we won't have that issue anymore, that we'd go back to what I call a typical year on unemployment, which would be in that number. So, if we're looking for the 50,000, I would say that's a place where we could take a little bit of risk there, and if I ever had to come back with an adjustment, I would come back. It wouldn't be to next spring, because we'll have a better picture of where we're going to be as we get into probably March or April next year. So
Thank you, Mr. McHugh. I just want to make clear that the number was 500,000, and the motion on the table is to take 50,000 and make it 450,000.
Correct.
And take that 50,000. Is there
A second.
is a second? Member Nicholson?
Yeah, do you mind if I just ask a couple questions about the motion? Do we know what uniforms are up to be replaced this year and where that 50,000 would go?
I haven't seen a plan yet. That's the, Mr. Geary works with the athletic directors. They develop that plan. They sit down and they go through that 5-year plan and put it together. They also meet as far as all the supplies and everything else, and then they, put that out. We go get our quotes from there, and then we purchase at that point. So I only see when the purchase orders come through my desk with all the backup.
Okay. Are there particular teams that we think are going to have increased number of students or have a high number of uniform requests, or like just thinking about what will be the result of this?
I don't know, but I think I would suggest that again is we're gonna is Mr. Castellanos stated that maybe this should be something that we can also bring to the athletic subcommittee as part of what is their purchasing plan for this year.
Okay.
I always believe the money should go where the students are.
Yep.
And for example, if track goes up by 100 kids, they should have more resources. If the soccer team went down, or there's no longer a freshman team, there's only a JV and some, maybe they don't need as many resources. So,
Okay.
So that would be a way to look at it that way, and I think that's kind of where you're trying to go. So we put the resources or the uniforms where the kids are, so we have the right number of students.
I'm going to go to Deputy Superintendent Ruggiero, and because I know we're starting to get a little. There was other questions, and I had a line of questions, but
I just wanted to let you know, this year it's football.
This past year.
This coming year.
Oh, this coming year
This
will be
coming
football.
year,
Yeah.
it will be football.
Okay.
I just want to say that
yes, Member Capola.
I do know that every 5 years, there's a rotation of 5 years, but what's happening to most of the junior varsity teams is it's passed me down. So it might be a uniform that's just 5 years old. It might be a uniform that's 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. They're very old uniforms, and they change each year slightly. So you're sending teams out there that are not matching. Definitely on the junior varsity, but they also have a need for more uniforms on the regular teams too.
Is there any discussion on this specific issue? Because I know there's a lineup of questions, and I want to be fair to the members. Is this directly related to this question?
Yes.
Member Ford.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mr. Piccolo. We talked prior to the meeting about the uniform. I think maybe if we had Mike Geary talk to the ADs and kind of get an inventory, because we're going into the GBL this year. We want our kids to look good. And what Mr. Capola said, it goes from the varsity to the junior varsity, and particularly football. By the time a 5-year uniform gets to the JV, it can be pretty torn and tattered. I've seen it. I go to an awful lot of football, baseball, basketball games. We have some kids that show up in the field looking fairly shabby, and I don't think that's our kids don't deserve that. I think we have Mr. McGeary kind of talk to the ADs and kind of do an inventory, see what we need. Report back.
Member Nicholson.
Yeah, I agree. I think this sounds good. I'm supportive of it. And I don't have any other thing to change. I don't know if people have other things to change. Do we want to hear what that would be if this is the only flexibility that we have in the budget before we vote on this? If there's going to be other suggestions about things to change, that'd be my only. That's my only. It's more of a procedural thing. I'm supportive of it. I totally agree about the importance of athletics and the importance of you know, it's a statement that we're sending about our, the support that we're providing, and that representing our community. I think it sounds reasonable. It sounds like we have that flexibility. So it sounds, I mean, it seems like a good idea. But that's my question.
Related to this, Member Castellanos, because there are other questions.
I just kind of want to echo, and I do, I think the district, Dr. Tutwiler, you've done a phenomenal job with the budget. Kevin, you guys did a great job with the budget. And I feel like the flexibility, that's when we're coming at this is the final process. I think that, like, for me personally, I think the athletics was something that highlighted. I think that was a big, for me, that's just where I see flexibility going towards. I support, that's exactly what, I think what Member Nicholson presented is valid. I understand that. I want to make sure that everyone knows my stand on that. I see that as a priority.
So I'd just like to make a couple points. I totally agree. We want our students to look, we're all proud of the students. And I just want to make a point. There are a lot of people that work in this community and work in the schools that don't live in Lynn. I think they stand up and they work hard and they have pride in the work they do and they have pride in the schools. I think it's a really important point because some of the members here made sure that this happened that have been here a while. We never asked for an athletic fee like other communities did, so we have always made a commitment to ensure the students are able to play no matter how much they can afford or not afford, and surrounding communities actually put fees in place that would have limited or eliminated the ability of students in our community to play sports at that point. So making this investment is something I definitely support. I think it's important that we make that point. But I think we also have to reflect on where we were several years ago and where we're coming. I mean, the Student Opportunity Act was finally approved, and the dollars that we were facing and making tough decisions across the board, and every one of us knows this on budget, that we were struggling even to meet net school spending. There was a real challenge, and we have changed the direction with a lot of hard work from everybody sitting around this table, and the hard work that went into supporting the Student Opportunity Act and ensuring that it was passed. We all were very supportive. We did resolutions. We testified in the legislature because we understood that we needed the dollars to make sure that our students got the best. And that's what everyone here in this room is committed to. And I've been doing this for close to 4 years now, and no one here that's sitting here is not committed to try and make sure that our students get the best possible education and get the best possible resources to make it happen. So I think that's an important point to note as we move forward. So what I'd like to do is make as a Member Capola's motion should be framed as an amendment to the motion to approve the budget, which had a second. So if you would like to, as I've been,
Make a motion to amend the budget on the unemployment line under personnel from $500,000 to $450,000, and amend the athletic line under uniforms from $50,000 to $100,000.
Okay, that's the appropriate way to go, and I want to thank.
That's an amendment of the motion.
That's an amendment. That's an amendment. The original motion was made and seconded to approve the budget. So this is an amendment to approval for the budget. So we will take all the amendments before we have the final vote on the budget itself. So that's again, I want to thank Attorney Markopoulos for helping point that out to us. So that again, I'm going to as framed as an amendment to them, and I'd like to second on that, and then a roll call, please.
Second.
There's a second, and we'll have a roll call on again the amendment that has been made by Member Capola.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Nicholson?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. Member Nicholson, you've spoken. I had a question. Did you have a question? And then we'll go to Member Gately.
Yeah, the point I just wanted to make quickly about Member Castellanos' point is that, totally agree about the importance of athletics. Absolutely share that as a priority. I think I'm excited for the results of the study that Mr. McHugh is working on, and look forward to reviewing those results. I heard a lot of the similar feedback about the need to examine this issue. And then also particularly about the weight rooms, I think this is a great opportunity in the gym at Lynn Tech. Great opportunity to keep in mind as we head into the third round of the ESSER funding. some of those one-time expenditures that you wouldn't want to use to hire people, and some of the thinking about it as part of the capital needs of the district. Because I think it's true at the other secondary schools as well, about the need for those kinds of investments. So,
I think there's a great opportunity here for us to take those dollars and make some investments that we wouldn't have been able to make otherwise. So I think that's a good point. Member Gately?
First of all, is there any way we can guarantee that the coaches get at least the 2% increase? I've been on this board for 6 years, and they have gotten nothing of an increase. And I would like, everyone that comes up for a contract, they get 2% increase. So I know it's going to happen in the fall, but something, if we're going to get anything done, it has to be in this budget. So I would like to see that we make an amendment that they get that, at least a 2% increase. I know you're going to align and look at other school systems.
Just to follow up to that point, Member Gately, I think as the discussion is going on, and I think it's a really good point that this is going to be brought up in September. It's going to go in front of the committee. There is flexibility in the budget, so the question would be what that number looks like. It may be a different number based on what we find. So, talking about 2% at this point, I think doesn't reflect maybe the reality of what we're looking to increase there, depending on what we find and what again, I think the subcommittee that will work on athletics, I think that discussion will continue. So, again, I appreciate the point related to that, but I think we have a good plan in place from my perspective. But
so when I'm
please
walking
follow up.
around in the community, I'll be able to tell the coaches that have approached me that there's a strong possibility that you will get this increase, because when you're working for so many years and you don't have an increase, eventually, as Ms. Coppola pointed out, and you go into like championships, you're like down to making pennies per hour, but you do it for the love of the game and for the love of the children. But there's a point that you have to say, you have to start paying our coaches more, and it should be in this budget. I just have a hard time with that. And as I look at these two positions in curriculum, we're adding two new assistant curriculum directors. I'm all confused about this. I've talked to Dr. Tutwiler, asked if we can make it a different position, and that's not possible. But these positions, I'm told that they're going to be secondary. I don't know if they're going to be really secondary. Have these positions been worked out with the union? Because it's not a good precedent to set that, here we have two new assistant curriculum directors that are, definitely not secondary. Are they secondary? It should be stated that they're secondary. They have to distinguish the difference between the roles.
Dr. Tutwiler?
Yeah, I'll just say quickly
And
that
one second, please. And they have to come before the personnel so we can approve that new, what is it called? Position. It should be in front of us. We should be approving this new position if it's a secondary position. And it hasn't come before us. It just showed up in the budget.
Dr. Tutwiler, please.
Yeah. So these are existing positions, right? There was actually
No.
They are. These are existing positions, and we have it's within our scope and within our purview to assign a grade level or a level to these existing positions. I'd also say that the ELA assistant director for curriculum secondary actually existed prior to 2008, and I think FY09 there was a nearly 7-digit reduction, and to save people's jobs, they didn't replace a person who retired in that secondary ELA position. So really, we're going back to a scenario, where, some time ago there were 2 ELA assistant curriculum directors, one for elementary, focused on reading and elementary language arts, and one for secondary. That's already existed. These are existing positions. And if you would like, I'm happy to, entertain in the fall, we can come before the Personnel Subcommittee and change the title of those two positions to say Assistant Director for Curriculum, ELA, Secondary, or Math, Secondary. But, the conversation with the union is it's an existing position. There's nothing to change. There's nothing to debate. There's nothing to bargain over.
I just really, really want to make sure that it is this actual secondary person that's in that position if we're going to fund that position, like secondary.
Like an interview process?
So, okay, I guess what we could do then is the positions in the budget, I'm happy to come before the Personnel Subcommittee and we can change the job description and the qualifications to include secondary experience or something of that nature. But, again, at least for ELA, this was an existing position years ago.
In the math?
I'm sorry?
In the math?
Not for math. Not for math. But again, a glaring gap that I presented 2 meetings ago.
Okay, thank you.
Member Satterwhite?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler. You can hear the passion of my colleagues with regards to the budget and where we want to see the money go to. And you can agree with me, Dr. Tutwiler, that budgets show what we feel is important and where we feel most aligned with what we hope for our core vision for the district. What I hear from my colleagues and what I hear from building leaders is it's very hard right now for finding the best qualified teachers or educators to come work in our district. I know we made some changes, but one of the things that I keep hearing is, hey, we have a 5-year plan for our uniforms, and I know that the mayor put out a 5-year plan for our building capital, but where's the 5-year plan for our people capital to make sure that we are competing with our neighboring districts to make sure that we're getting the best qualified people to work directly with our students. It shouldn't be a coach bringing up the salary issue or the stipend issue. It should be something that should be on our roadmap. Like, hey, we should be looking at this thing every 5 years. We should be looking at this thing every 5 years. It shouldn't be, hey, I've been a coach for 10 years. Why haven't I got paid more? So that's the issue that I have, and I know that we're addressing it now in this budget, but for future references, we should definitely be looking at our neighboring districts with regards to the salary for our coaches, for our educators, and look at year after year to make sure that we can compete for the best qualified candidates to come and work in our districts. Because if we're not getting the best qualified candidates because they're going to another district, then we're going to be stuck with what we get, and that is directly impacting my daughter and my kids that are in our school district. So I'd love for us to look into doing something to that effect, Dr. Tutwiler. All direct services staff there should be some sort of roadmap with regards to that.
Yeah.
Dr. Tutwiler, would you like to
Yeah.
speak to that?
This is the first conversation that we've had about this kind of thing, and I guess if you're asking for a staffing roadmap, I would say that historically the district hasn't been in a place where they could make a 5-year plan because the funding was so unpredictable that why spend all this energy making this plan when you may not have the funding to make it come to life. I'd say now, with the Student Opportunity Act, you're in a much more predictable, or better, but more predictable than you have been historically. And I would say respectfully that I'd put our staff up against any staff in this country.
And I'm not talking about our current staff. I'm talking about finding new people to come to work in our district.
Well, I would say even what I'm seeing in terms of, we've hired 11 social workers. and I signed those higher letters of the 19. They're incredible. As I'm looking at the ESL teachers that we've hired, their resumes, their experience, they're incredible. So I'm happy to talk more about what a 5-year staffing plan might look like. Some of it might be wrapped up in negotiations and pay and things of that nature, but I'm pretty proud of the work that our building leaders and directors do in finding qualified staff for your child, for all of the children in the district, and we'll continue to do that work. I'm not opposed, and I think in many ways it would be a good idea to make a plan. I've not seen one of those before, but I'm happy to explore it.
So a vice principal spoke to me about the difficulties of hiring. She would interview, and the person that she wants to get the job, she'd send a letter to. She wouldn't hear from him, would follow up, and then they'd say, hey, I got a different position with this particular school because of X, Y, and Z. So that's what I'm trying to portray to you and to my colleagues. And we lost a good coach recently to Springfield, and more than likely, it probably had to do with the stipend. So there's stuff like that come into play, and that's why I'm saying we have to foresee these things happening and not just sit and wait for it to happen, because I don't want to have our students being the ones that pay the ultimate price, unfortunately. So all I wanted to do was tell you, let's prepare and let's have some sort of idea of where we're headed with regards to the people that work here. And I know we took an important step with the HR director. I know you announced it a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and that's going to help with interpersonal issues. I know that in negotiations working with you, we've taken a lot of good steps forward. So this part, I think, is just a good component to have with the vision. Hey, we care about our staff, and we want to make sure that this is a good place for them to work. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
I want to make sure that we actually did a roll call on Member Capola's amendment. Was there a roll call? I know there was a first and a second. We did a roll call, is that correct?
We did a roll call on
Right.
that.
We amended the motion, now we have to vote on the primary motion, I think.
Well, the amendment was to amendment for the full budget. So
Correct.
the motion made was then amended, it was an actually amendment to the full budget. So that roll call was taken. I'm correct.
Yes.
So we took the right action. Okay? So in other words, the original, the budget had a motion and a second. We've been discussing. Attorney Markopolis? Pardon me? We're ready to vote on the main motion if there's no other discussion. So the amendment has been passed. We have not yet voted on the main motion. If there's other discussion related to the budget, we can then vote on the main motion that was made and seconded by Member Ford. So if there's no other discussion related to the budget, then the main motion is on the floor after the amendment was accepted, it was part of the budget now, Member Capola's amendment. So there's been voted on, motion made and seconded. Roll call, if there's no other discussion, roll call on the budget.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Nicholson?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. Next on the agenda is a request for executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations with non-union personnel, i.e. the school committee attorneys, attorney or attorneys, and to discuss strategy with regards to ongoing litigation. Related to that, the discussion of these matters, which involves litigation strategy in an open meeting, may have a detrimental effect on and compromise the litigating position of the City of Lynn and the chair so declares. With that, I would entertain a motion.
Motion?
Member Satterwhite?
Motion to go into executive session to conduct a strategy session in preparation for contract negotiations with non-union personnel, example, school committee attorney, and to discuss strategies with regards to ongoing litigation, because this discussion is a matter which involves litigation strategies, and an open meeting may have detrimental effect on and compromise the litigating positions of the City of Lynn, and the chair so declares.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
A roll call required.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Nicholson?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. We will convene in, I think, room 402, next door. So those that will be part of the executive session, we can reconvene at that point. Entertain a motion to discuss the actions taken at the executive session.
Motion to ratify the votes taken in executive session with regards to contract negotiations with non-union personnel, i.e. school committee attorney, and to discuss the strategies with regards to ongoing litigation, where we voted to post a one-year RFP with the duties that were listed in the 1999 contract for legal services for attorney John Myhos, which would also include the requirement of a portfolio to be provided to the school committee with a fixed fee suggestion, which fixed fee would be negotiated at a later time, that the person applying for that position would have special employee status with no benefits, with a background in special education. And can I do the second one, or do you want to do each one?
Why don't we do them separately, just to
Okay.
be... is there a second?
Second.
The second roll call required.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Nicholson?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes.
And the second action taken during the executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations with non-union personnel, school committee attorney, to discuss strategies with regards to ongoing litigation. There was a vote taken to have attorney John Slattery from the mayor's office act as an interim negotiating attorney for the Lynn School Committee through the calendar year, with the compensation to be determined.
For a second?
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Nicholson?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. There is no other business on the agenda. Is there, entertain a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
We'll take a roll call for adjournment, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Nicholson?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
You.